What's up everybody, how's it going? My name is Emily and welcome back to my channel where I review, critique, and summarize scary children's books. How is everybody doing? I hope that February is going so well for everyone so far. I know that it's like very early on in the year, and honestly this is the time of year where I feel the least productive. So I don't know if anybody else is struggling right now, but I am definitely struggling. But the good news is that it is Women in Horror Month and I am doing the Ladies of Horror Fiction Readathon. This video is going to be a book talk on the third book that I've read for the readathon, for the challenge number 3, of course, that is read a book by an LGBTQ plus author. And for that I have chosen Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. This is a YA horror. So in this video, as always, I am going to summarize the book for you, followed by a short book talk where I let you know what I think of the book and the story, and then finally I am going to share with you my personal scores for this book. So I always score books based on writing and language, story, scares, and personal, and if you guys want to see those, make sure to stick around to the end of the video. So Sawkill Girls is a YA horror about 3 girls, Marion, Val, and Zoe, and the story takes place on Sawkill Rock, an island community known for its wealth and for its business of breeding powerful racehorses. There's something off about Sawkill Rock though, and it has to do with the many women that have gone missing from the island over generations. There have been girls going missing and nobody seems to do anything about it. There are legends of a monster in the woods eating girls, but nobody's really taking any of this seriously. Marion is new to the Rock. She has come here with her sister and mother in order to start a new life after the death of her father. Zoe has been living on Sawkill Rock for a while. She is the daughter of the police chief, and she is just trying to deal with the disappearance of her best friend a few months before. Val is the beautiful daughter of the Mortimer family, the most powerful and the oldest family on the Rock. And Val has a dark secret that threatens to undo not only her life, but the world around her as well. The story follows these 3 girls through their both uneasy and powerful friendships and romances as their circumstances push them towards a head-to-head with the monster in the woods. So sadly, this book was just okay for me. I thought this book looked really great for me on paper, and sadly that wasn't 100% the case. So I'll start by talking a little bit about the writing and the story. I think that generally this book is pretty well written. Honestly, the prose is a little florid for my taste. I find that when the prose is a little bit overwritten, I have trouble connecting with the book, and that was definitely the case with this one. There were some metaphors that the author used that quite honestly didn't make any sense whatsoever, and there seemed to be a sacrifice of meaning and clarity for literary aesthetic. This isn't the case for the whole of the book. There were parts where I thought the writing was really great and she kind of pulled back from that really elaborate prose, but then there were points that were just so muddy for me and just seemed kind of messy. I actually think that the plot is the strongest quality of this book. I really enjoyed the story. I thought that Legrand had come up with some pretty cool and creative points to jump off of. I love the idea of the powerful family on this rock having ties to an ancient evil, and then making one of the main characters the daughter of this family who has to constantly reassess her situation and try to hide from her impact on people. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the characterization as a whole, actually. I liked all of the characters. I wanted to keep reading about them, and I didn't find that the book ever really dragged because I was interested in finding out what happened next. The representation in this book in particular is fantastic. Legrand really takes care with making her characters' identities genuine and a big part of their life. I really liked reading about some very generously written bisexual and asexual characters specifically. I love that Legrand has taken meticulous care to avoid and subvert any harmful stereotypes in this book. It feels like the story and the writing, it all comes from a very genuinely good place, and I really appreciate that. Something I think that Legrand has really done a good job of is creating constraints for each of these characters that they have to break free of, and then relating those constraints back to feminist issues. I like that a lot. I think the commentary in this book is quite well done for the most part. These girls are really put in a situation where they can't trust anybody except for each other and themselves. And this speaks a lot to resilience, female-female friendships, overcoming adversity, overcoming the patriarchy, etc. That being said, there were parts that I was uncomfortable with the book's rhetoric, especially towards the end. I felt that the story really started to unravel towards the climax of the book. And during those parts where the logic of the story started to falter a little bit was where I felt that the commentary made a sort of unfortunate switch from very nuanced and well done commentary to just a bunch of oversimplified statements that undercut what she had set up in the first 2/3 of the book. And although I agree totally with what the author is trying to say, and I can totally see what she is trying to do here, I think her ideas are underserved by being used as a crutch when the story starts to slide into not making much sense. I felt that in some cases, the commentary that was really well set up in the first 2/3 of the book was almost cheapened towards the end. And that was really too bad. I really wanted it to sort of hold fast throughout the whole book, but there were parts where that just wasn't the case. In terms of horror, I really enjoyed a lot of the scary stuff in this book. The author has come up with a pretty cool monster. I kind of got my wish. I wanted this to be a creature feature, and it was. The lore behind the monster is really interesting, and towards the end of the book, it does get a bit weird, but honestly, I'm so on board with that. Like, I love that kind of thing, so I was there for it. There's one scene in particular where one of the girls has an encounter in the forest, and it is like utterly terrifying. It is so creepy. The scene is filled with just so much dread and the uncanny, and I found myself wishing that we had more scenes like that throughout the book. But overall, I do think that the horror was well done, and I thought that when the author wanted horror to be effective, it really was. It's not the biggest part of this book, but it can pack a punch when she wants it to. So with all of that in mind, I am going to give Sawkill Girls a 7 out of 10 for writing and language and a 7 out of 10 for story. I did have issues with the prose, but aside from it being a little bit overwritten for my taste, I think that this generally is a well-crafted book with a very interesting story. Considering this book is YA, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for scares. Like I say, this book doesn't necessarily set out to scare you, the reader, as much as it does try to tell a story about girl power and overcoming evil. So although horror is definitely present and there is definitely gore and supernatural scares, I wouldn't call this overly dark or overly scary, especially in the world of YA. Finally, I'm going to give Sawkill Girls a 7 out of 10 for my personal score. 7s all across the board today. I wanted to like this book a lot more than I did, but there were parts that I enjoyed so much, including the commentary and the horror aspects, that I think this is a pretty solid 7 for me. And I really encourage anybody who is interested in reading feminist horror to pick this up. Alright guys, so that is it for my review today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you have read this book or if you are interested in reading this book. And if you like the video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. I will be here doing scary kids book reviews and videos like this. And if you want to follow me on social media, the links are always in the description below. Cool guys, well I hope you enjoyed the 3rd book in my Ladies of Horror Fiction Readathon book talk series, and I hope to see you again in my next video for the 4th book, which will be a book by Mary Downing Hahn. I'm so excited. And until I see you guys next week, I hope that you have a great week, hope everything is going well for everybody, and that if you're having trouble being productive, don't worry, you are not alone. I am also having a lot of trouble being productive. Alright guys, so until then, happy reading, and I'll see you next time.